Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well and you have had a fantastic week. It's been a great week here and staying cool, staying healthy, all that good stuff, and you're ready for, we just had Ralph Bond. He is our science and tech trends correspondent. Just recorded a new segment with him. You can check that out over at our website. But now, today's guest, you may have guessed, it's, a little time shifted, and I appreciate Nathan for doing that because totally my fault. But usually, towards the end of the month, we have Nathan Evans. He is managing editor over at Calcopia.com, where, it's a website full of just a little bit of everything, and you should really check it out, especially if you have a tech bent to things, but also if you are somehow into books, movies, TV shows, podcasts, if you're into tech reviews, if you're into video games, if you are into just about everything. Ladies and gentlemen, Calcopia, which we will have a link to that in the show notes over at computeramerica.com. It's where we will have everything, including all of the websites, all the reports, everything that we discuss. It will be in one place. So be ready to check that out. So all that being said, let's go ahead, bring on Nathan, and just, have a fun time with it. So once again, he joins us from Calcopia, and he's been a longtime contributor now of Computer America, helps us with a lot here behind the scenes. And Nathan, welcome back onto the program. How have you been?
Hey, man, and thank you for the intro. I was going to say, since we changed we didn't change our name. We're a new thing, completely new, brand new from scratch, literally scratch. I have the bank account receipts to prove it. Nothing really good rhymes with smorgasbord. Think about it. Like people say orange, nothing rhymes with orange, but what good word that's fun and inclusive that rhymes with smorgasbord?
I think you're going to have to find your local town drunk and get them to figure that one out, because that's the only way, is if you have a heavy slur, in there. So
I love the word smorgasbord. After hullabaloo, it's one of my favorite words, but you can't really say welcome to Calcopia. It's a smorgasbord of Borgerborg. You can't do it. It just I sound like the Swedish chef. But no, thank you, Ben. Welcome back. Gonna say, should be fun today. And yeah. I just want to say, wherever you're at, if you survived a heat wave like I did, welcome to fall. It can't get here soon enough.
Yeah, fall is unfortunately still a couple weeks away, but I think everyone is, kind of feeling that nice, pleasant heat, especially the people who are dealing with the wildfires. Hopefully you're not getting too much of the smoke where you are. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy weather out there happening. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we are not Weather America. That's our sister program. That doesn't exist. No, instead we're Computer America. Though with Nathan, I will tell everyone out there that we have, kind of aimed the show to obviously current events and definitely more of the, obviously we don't shy away from tech. Nathan's insights on, on tech and tech stories really has put in the past a lot of perspective that I have, that we've talked about here on the show that we don't really have too often. But I will say that we focus on pop culture, movies, video games, all that stuff, the fun things in life. So before we get started with all that, Nathan, why don't you give the nice folks a quick introduction? If they go over to Calcopia, what will they find?
Sure. And I'll even give it to the bad folks. No, but I just want to say thank you really quick for that explanation that what you do is sort of evolved a little bit as technology, the world of technology has sort of, I don't want to say integrated because that sounds like symbiotic, sounds like a nice word for infiltrate. And that's what tech has done. It's infiltrated our lives in a way that's invasive. So I think one thing I like about your show, and I want to say this for anybody listening, Ben does a really good job of this. if you were to go to most tech websites, it's annoying, it's abrasive. Ben, you keep it fun, you keep it frivolous. I like it. That's why I'm here. That's why I canceled my plans to Hawaii just to be with you today.
Thank you. That is exactly what my mom used to tell me. Ben, you're so frivolous. I'm like, oh, thank you. That's
hold on, the lie detector's like, shh. No.
But I honestly, even to that point, and started to kind of cut you off kind of mid-thought there, but I will say that tech has, over the course that I've been doing this, obviously over the course that Craig's been doing this, tech went from a nerdy, weird thing that, was kind of productive. And, Craig used to have shows that he would have a representative from HP and a representative from Epson on the show together. And then they'd be like, okay, you two argue about printers for an hour. And, printers, who really cares except for the people buying printers?
Don't say that, because you're going to get angry emails from some consortium that has to do with such and such, and they will never live it down.
Well, they can fax me. Okay, that's it. But no, what I'm saying is that, like, over the course that I've been doing this, Nathan, and you know this as well as anyone, is that technology went from being a hobbyist, geeky, business kind of oriented thing to now there's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of politics in it. There's a lot of loud, angry voices in tech, and that's not where I find the fun in it. But I do know that is where some people, that's kind of their entry point into tech, is these people saying, look how much money I just made. Look how cheap this expensive thing is. Look how productive this thing is. And then they I'm hoping they get into tech and then they get into the fun side of it. But there's a lot of money in it, which is a good and a bad thing at the same time.
There's a lot of money, but I think there's a lot of influence. And I think the biggest comparison would be to sort of how pop culture has sort of overtaken the real news. Years and years ago, George Carlin used to have this bit. And by the way, if you don't know who George Carlin is, I'm very sorry. You're in for a treat. But he used to have this bit where he used to talk about Mickey Mouse's birthday. Used to tick him off, right? He's like, Mickey Mouse's birthday being celebrated on the news like it's a national event. And he was angry. And he made a really, let's just say, risque joke about Mickey and Goofy in a back alley. I can't repeat it here, but it's hilarious. Trust me. Have you heard it? It's great.
Not that particular one. I'm very familiar with George Carlin. Not that one though.
But then you see today, it's like you see comic books and you see storylines from comic books as printed as news stories. Like, oh, such and such is happening, such and such. And really, what's happened is that the media, what do you call it? The cultural entertainment media has sort of overtaken real news for people. Like, people are much more literate about Game of Thrones and The Simpsons, and they're more literate about Avengers and Thanos than they are actual world events. Mm-hmm. And I think in tech has sort of facilitated that, because tech has gone from nerdy transistor radios, Radio Shack, the
humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings, into sort of a controlling thing. It's not a conspiracy. And we've talked about this, is that most kids today don't know how to open a computer because they don't know what a computer is. A computer is a phone. They buy it. They know apps, they know tablets. They're very sophisticated on cryptocurrency, but they don't know how to reproduce it, And you see this happen throughout history. I don't want to get off a soapbox, but you see this happen throughout history where a modern civilization has kind of forgotten how to do what their ancestors did. It used to be things like, I can make fire out of sticks. I can hunt buffalo. Now it's like, we don't know how to get back to the moon.
I have heard that, our generation is kind of in that middle ground where, we grew up with it and, we started using it and we became kind of adept at understanding and using it to the extent that we had to. And now the generation after us, we have, kudos to all of the software companies out there. We have nailed user interface. Like, when you see a 2-year-old just latch onto a tablet and just start flicking away, and you're like, okay, user interface has reached its zenith. But, it's like I've heard this, kind of the kids coming into the job market nowadays at 18, 20, 24, they are pretty tech illiterate compared to, people our age. And of course, people even before me, they were tech literate, to the nth degree, or tech illiterate because they didn't even have to use any of this stuff. So we're in the middle ground, and then the people before us and the people after us. People before us didn't have to use it. People after us don't have to understand how to use it. So,
well, And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's not necessarily condemnation. It's sort of like with our generation, our forefathers, our parents would laugh at us because we didn't know how to fix an engine.
Yeah.
They trained on fixing car engines in school, and we didn't. And then nowadays, how do you change a car tire? I don't know anybody my age or younger that can change a car tire. How do you change a car tire? Oh, you call the tow company. No, it's so every generation loses.
If you ask
some
an
of that.
18-year-old to update the drivers on a PC, they'll be like,
"What's a PC?
What's a driver?
What's a driver?" And that's fine. I'm not making fun, but that would be innocent. But we're not talking about innocence. We're talking about pervasive technology. Like if you go to The Verge today, my favorite website in the whole world, The Verge, the lead article is about, Apple banning, Telegram, and you remember 6 years ago, you would have the same websites that are advocating not banning things, advocating banning things. It's like, where's your politics? Because we found out you have, I don't even remember, that there's a graveyard of dead social media websites that I don't remember. And same thing, there's so many attempts to become the next Twitter or Facebook or whatever, is that like, and the headline was, and please don't go there, but the headline was, oh, Apple's banning Telegram, but why aren't they banning X? Well, because you don't like X. That's why you're wondering. But if they were to ban your website, you'd be all in a kerfuffle about free speech. And that's what politics has become. It's become a way to control people through the most intimate connection they have to communication. Not TV, right? Not TV. It's not cable. It's your phone. It's technology. Because they have micro researched you. They have all your data. They have all this stuff, and they know how to advertise directly to you.
If it makes you feel any better, I have heard a rumor.
It does not.
I have heard a rumor in the past couple of weeks that I don't know if it was Tom from MySpace or someone else from MySpace wants to bring back MySpace, and
that's
why.
Yeah, that's one of those. We've already gone way off the deep end, but it's sort of like the brand Atari. And there was an article. I was listening to NPR the other day, and they had this whole big thing about Atari. And I forget the person on the show, but damn, you are uninformed. But I will say this: but Atari is not the Atari of 1976. It is. It's what's called a zombie brand. Have you heard of these? Where rich people who invested in crypto or whatever, they buy the name. They buy the name and they resurrect the name for nostalgia bait, right? And that's what Atari is basically today. It's just a zombie brand. And I think when you come to anything, when you're online with anything, there's so many zombie brands that are just basically, I'm going to buy you. It's sort of how insects work. Like an insect will, a parasite will invade the host.
Yeah, the fungus, the fungus that controls those ants. Yeah.
Exactly. You've seen it. It's a really. By the way, zombies could be real. I've seen dead insect carcasses get up and crawl. Have you seen that? It's really disturbing. Yeah. That's how the zombies are going to come. But anyway, that's kind of what tech is today. It's all hollowed out brands. It's all nostalgia. It's all this and that. But not on Computer America. On Computer America, we're about fun. We're about trying
to wrap around.
Yeah, exactly. See what I did? Yeah. This is what happens when you get years of experience, kids. But at Calcopia, for our part, and whether it's Calcopia or it's our predecessor, Popzara, it's like we try to just fuzz that out because, frankly, you're agitated enough, you're angry enough, and you shouldn't go to the news to find out what you will be aggravated today about because someone chose to make you pissed off about something. It's like, I want to have some fun. I want to see a movie. I want to play a game. I want to read a book, and I don't want to know how this is going to tick me off. And that's the whole point of this sort of thing. That's the whole goal of a journalist, is not to tell you what to be angry about, but it's to give you choices and to figure it out. And I think that's kind of what we do.
Is to inform, and we're gonna give you as much context as we can, but hey, we always welcome your feedback as well. So with that being said, you said earlier in the whole spiel there, you said something about everything just being about comic book characters and whatnot. So we're gonna start with comic book characters. You have a review of Spider-Man up, and just wanted to throw this out there because it's going to tie in with our next story about Samsung. But yeah, just For everyone out there who did not know, if you're living under the largest rock known to man, Spider-Man came out last weekend, and it has just been obliterating the box office. I don't know what it is, Nathan, but like every other week I hear about how, AMC theaters, movie theaters in general, IMAX, the company, everything's just on the verge of collapsing. Yeah. And then just Tom Holland just comes out and he's like, I got you guys. I got your whole industry in my hands. And
it's so much fun.
Spider-Man saved the movie industry again.
Well, we talked about this years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago when it was all doom and gloom, and Netflix, the CEO had come out and said, he said theaters were dead. No one wants them anymore. And to pat myself on the back, I said, that's bullshit. People love movie theaters. They love it. You just need to give them a reason to go. And do you remember the biggest thing in recent history with movie theaters was Barbieheimer, which was 3 years ago, when you had two movies that were really well reviewed, that were really well received, could not be more opposite if you planned it.
One Barbie, a biopic, one a fun toy riff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it gave the younger generation a reason to be excited about getting out and being social. Because I don't know if you know this or not, kids like being social. And they've been told, stick your nose in a phone, don't look up, don't interact, don't socially network, don't do this. And they just said, screw it, we're rebelling. Because that's what youth does. They rebel. It's literally what they do, right? If your parents said, your vegetables are good for you, your kids are going to say, screw you, I'm eating chocolate. And that's what they did. They went to the theaters, they spent billions of dollars, and Hollywood didn't get the message. And they kept doing doom and gloom again. But when something comes that they like, and this year has been the most fascinating box office in the history of the box office. I follow this stuff like my Jewish friends follow the Torah. And I'll tell you right now, they love going to the theaters. They love going to because there's no malls. There's nowhere to hang out. The movie theater is the only place kids can really hang out safely,
Yeah.
And this year, think about this. This year, you had a Star Wars movie in theaters with the Mandalorian and the Grogu, right? Mm-hmm. And not only did that movie not do well, it literally bombed. And not only did it bomb, you had two movies, we talked about this, done by YouTubers that surpassed it. You had Obsession, and what was the other one?
Backrooms or something like that?
Backrooms, right? And both well received, both made a lot of money, both brought the kids out. And then we have Spider-Man. There's been other big movies.
Since you have been on the show, you had another example of, I'm sure you were going to bring up Supergirl.
Supergirl bombed. Bombed, and it didn't bomb because it was a bad movie, right? Sort of like Masters of the Universe, the He-Man movie, which, by the way, still kind of the best movie I've seen this year. No looking. But it didn't bomb. These movies don't bomb because they're bad movies. It's because they're not targeted towards the demographic. Like, I remember seeing the trailer for Supergirl. By the way, the trailer for that movie, terrible. One of the worst trailers I have ever seen. I like Blondie. I like Call Me, but not in this movie. So you have this movie, this trailer was playing before some kids' movies, and it's about Supergirl who's depressed. She's an alcoholic, and her dog gets shot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No kid is going to want to see this, right? And it's all dour. And then you saw they had a popcorn bucket that looked like a adult sex toy. You can't do this and expect people to see it. Meanwhile, I'll go back to it. Spider-Man. And again, you've had other movies this year. You've had Super Mario Brothers. You've had Toy Story 5. You've had a lot of big hits this year already. People always say, and here's my soapbox. People always say, is there superhero fatigue, right? And the answer is yes, there is very much superhero fatigue. But, Nathan, they say, Spider-Man made $1 billion in 2 days. And I said, no, there's superhero fatigue, but there's not Spider-Man fatigue. Spider-Man is itself separate. And can I tie it back to tech? I'm going to tie it. Do you remember years ago when the iPad came out and the iPad was super popular and everyone needed to have one? And then Google brought out 1,000 clones and they all died. Amazon brought stuff out.
Everyone had a tablet. They're like, this is the next pillar of computing. It's smartphone, computers, and tablets. But yeah, no, it did not really flesh out that way.
It didn't. But, and as the Samsungs and as the Amazons and all the also rans, they fell behind. The iPad still sold well. And you realize there's really not a tablet market. there's an iPad market. And that's what superhero movies have become. Like, you will have just there has been no successful superhero movie in the last 3 years except for Spider-Man and like the Deadpool movie, which is of course, different. These are not Marvel cinematic
which is itself
universes.
a subversion of the superhero, kind of fatigue, because it's like, oh, this is your anti-superhero movie.
The real bomb is going to come later this year. I'm not saying bomb as in it's gonna be a failure, but the real test is going to be at the end of this year when you have another Barbenheimer situation coming up. But this one is totally artificial. It's astroturfed. You're going to have the Avengers Doomsday hitting the exact same day as Dune 3. And I will say this. Dune is getting all the IMAX, right? They're getting all the IMAX screens. Poor Avengers is not. If Avengers fails or it doesn't ignite the box office, I don't know what the future of the MCU is. People say, oh, but Spider-Man made $1 billion. Okay, Spider-Man is not the Avengers. Okay, Spider-Man is Spider-Man. And I don't know, you and I were talking about what movie you should see. Speaking of Barbenheimer, you're like, should I see Spider-Man or should I see The Odyssey? I've only seen one, but I have heard good things about both. So I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo The Odyssey like Twitter. But I will say, Spider-Man, I'm not interested in Marvel. I'm one of those people. I'm kind of burned out on Marvel. I'm not burned out on Spider-Man. I saw Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2 in 2004. This movie, it owes a lot to the Sam Raimi film. It borrows a lot from the Sam Raimi film. It does something miraculous. It's a Spider-Man movie that's about, I know, gasp, Spider-Man. There's a lot of characters in it. The trailer, I'm not going to spoil, but the trailer does. It's got the Hulk. It's got Yelena. It's got an X-Man. It's got the Punisher. But it's a Spider-Man movie. It somehow makes it work. It somehow does it. And it focuses on a character, and it's not ludicrous. The action's extremely well done. There's a lot of practical effects in this movie. There's so much practical effects. There's so many practical effects. And it looks better.
Yeah, the few reviews that I've looked at, and I really haven't looked at too many, but the few things I've seen is just like it's a grounded Spider-Man, because Marvel ran into that issue of, everything is a galactic level threat, everything ties into each other, everything all pulls in on this movie, and you need to do your homework. But I've heard this one is just, hey, go to the theater, enjoy some Spider-Man. It's more, it's New York, and it's a great movie. Like, it's much more grounded than a lot of previous Marvel offerings.
And it's fun. It's fun. It focuses on the character, about why that you like this character. And it's basically a reboot of the franchise, right? It's a soft reboot. Like,
they wiped everyone's memory. That's right.
Yeah, literally though. But like, it finds ways to like get rid of the effluence of the old Spider-Man. Like, he doesn't have the cyber suit anymore because that was stupid. He has organic web swingers now. He's going back to the basics, and I don't know if they're going to continue this, but I will tell you, it's a breath of fresh air. You can still have fun with comic book movies. But there needs to be a grounding there. There needs to be something that the audience can latch onto. Whereas, like, last year we had Superman, which was not a terrible movie, but not a great movie. And you had Superman as sidelined as a side character in his own film for the Green Lantern characters and the Thor character and the other characters you really don't care about in a Superman movie. Yeah. And whereas Spider-Man movie, you get Spider-Man in doses. You get tons of Spider-Man. And there's a little scene in the movie where he's going into this giant building. And as he's walking, it's really funny. He's just walking in the building in his suit, and it's just like it's every day. And he's looking at the guards, and he goes to the guards like, hey, you're doing a good job. He's just like, he's normal.
He's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah.
He's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and it works. And this is the best Tom Holland has ever. This is like the best acting that kid has ever done.
So
right?
So now we're going to try to tie that in a little bit to tech, because you provided. And by the way, there's also a review if you are really itching for things. Calcopia, and right up there on the homepage, there's a Spider-Man Brand New Day review done by that was a nice lady, Susanna Bajorquez. My bad.
She's a great. By the way, she's great. If everyone should read Susanna's reviews. She's one of the best writers I've ever worked with. She's really good. She's extremely fair. I wish you could follow her online, but these people, they don't do the online thing a lot. But read Susanna's reviews, please, please, please. Susanna, if you're listening, and I don't know if you are, but A plus.
Good job.
You're doing a good job.
Good job, Susanna. So, with that being said, though, there's also, like any good movie, I think there was, just the other day I was looking at a meme or something like that of Deadpool, and it was talking about the Honda Odyssey during the movie, and, they're having like a big fight scene, and by the end of it, Deadpool's like, the Honda Odyssey, this thing really uses a word I can't say, but, it was obviously a tongue-in-cheek product placement. Well, I have not seen Spider-Man, don't know how integrated it is, but Samsung is doing its own little product placement with Spider-Man. So
it
is
does
it like
that.
although this looks like
it.
the foldable phone, right?
Yeah, they don't really use it in the movie as much as the trailers do, or as the commercials for the Samsung stuff. But there is there is callbacks where it's the weird thing when you're watching a TV show and everyone is not using Apple products. And it becomes conspicuous by its absence. But no, it's not as bad as like the James Bond movies. Do you remember years ago when Sony bought
Jaguar?
or like the Blu-rays, or everything was everything was Sony and James Bond's world. But that wasn't bad. It was egregious when he started drinking Heineken. Remember?
Yeah.
He changed everything else. Don't do that. Don't do that. But no, if there is product placement, it's pretty much. What's really funny though? If you look at that ad, you'll notice the license plate is not an American license plate because the movie wasn't filmed in America. It was filmed mostly in like Scotland. Yeah. So it's like, you ever see Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx? Where Jackie goes to Chinatown?
Yeah.
And it's like he's in New York and you could just see all these beautiful mountains in the background. It's like, that's not New York.
Yeah.
A lot of places have been New York in cinema. And I think it's Glasgow, or I forget the city they filmed this movie in, but it's a good stand-in for New York. So, but no, it makes you want to go out.
And then I'm sorry, I actually didn't have it pulled up. The BMW is also going into Spider-Man as well. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's but the foldable phones and everything. Look, I don't know, man. You know how I feel about VR. I've told you this, and frankly, I've been validated a lot. But I don't know about foldable. I don't know if there's any. Okay, see, go back to that crazy design right there. Go down. Okay, see that? That's the real type. No, go down a little bit. So there you go. So in the movie, spoiler, one of the characters makes a Spider-Man tracking app, and every time you see the app, there's like Samsung promotion, but it's so subtle. It's not really egregious, right? It's nothing big. It looks more like what's that? The Leapfrog. It looks more like that video game for like babies.
Yeah.
And it does like a Samsung phone.
Definitely looks like a kid's learning app.
Mm-hmm. There's a really fun joke where they show the Punisher using it, and the juxtaposition about the Punisher using like a child's toy is really fun. But no, I mean honestly, that's how the movies get funded. And it's not like, hey, I'm going to go out and buy this. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's subtle. It's subtle.
No, there's a way to do it, and there's a way to not do it. You mentioned some of them before. Obviously, Deadpool, and you can either be like, what was the product placement in Austin Powers? There's a funny way to do it that is overt. There's a good, subtle way to do it where it makes sense. But yeah, Spider-Man, they can do as they please. Now, let's go ahead and move on a little bit from Spider-Man. That was all a lot of fun. Let's jump back to some of the more different stories that you've linked, and I really wanted to bring this one because it's a birthday, and, well, Quake. The game that Elon Musk was a pro at in college and won the first ever tournament of any esport ever as the original esport winner. So, Quake. I don't know why he even talked about that. That was so weird. But either way, 30 years of Quake. Did you play Quake 30 years ago, Nathan?
Yes and no. 30 years ago, I didn't have a PC. I couldn't afford it. Like, I don't know. You kids are today lucky. PC's really expensive back in the 90s.
Yeah.
We're talking like the equivalent of like $3,000 for a basic PC. There were no GPU cards like there are today. There's nothing. You just had PC. I remember I was young enough, and I remember I went to this. I was hearing about like everyone else. And I saw a computer lab, and I really wanted to play Doom. ID's Doom original. And I didn't know anything about computers. I didn't know anything. Like no one did. Like unless you had a PhD or an engineering degree, you didn't really know what a computer really was. like back in 1993. It was a phantom thing. That was like saying a Tesla. Like, I don't know what a Tesla is because I can't afford it. So it's hypothetical. There's no cheap one. So I remember opening the newspaper and looking up the for sale ads, and everyone was selling computers, and I would call them and I'd say, can it play Doom? And it was all old people. Like, what? Doom? What? It was a 386 or a 486, right? This is before Pentium, right? Pentium 1 didn't come out till 1994?
Yeah, something like that.
So anyway, Quake came out, 1996 was a huge year for video games. Huge. Absolutely. Probably like the second most important year in history after 1985, because this is the year that 3D became something real. And the three big games of 1996, the three really big games, 4 if you count Resident Evil, 4. But no, it was Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. It was Quake 3. It was Crash Bandicoot, and it was Resident Evil. And basically, the industry shifted. There had been 3D games before, but not like this. This was the normal. And a lot of people were very disappointed with Quake because it wasn't as action-packed as Doom. It wasn't as accessible. It wasn't as crazy. It was brand new. It was a new thing. It was an absolute new thing that we had no relevance for. 9 Inch Nails, by the way, did the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I'll give Trent credit. And I love the fact that I tell people that Disney Pixar movies are scored by the guy who did Quake, and they don't understand that, but I love it. But Quake was great. It wasn't great when it came out, though. It took time, and my experience is that when I finally had access to a PC in 1997, I could download the shareware version of Quake. Because when you had a PC in the early 90s, you didn't know if your PC could play games. You would buy a game and it would crash, and there's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
So you get shareware, and you see if it worked. And Quake was great. Quake was revelatory to me. Quake was right. I had a lot of fun playing online. I was one of those people. Never great, but I knew how to rocket hop. I knew how to lob rockets. I love the thing of it. And we could get into Quake 2 if you want later. But Quake 2 was basically a reboot of Quake, and some people love it, some people do not like it.
Quake 2 was my introduction to it on the computer labs at school that they would upload everything to. And you'd have giant LAN tournaments, yeah.
It really wasn't a sequel, though. It was really a completely new game built from the ground up. It had nothing to do with Quake 1. It was completely different story, different setting, whatever. I like them both, right? But I will give Bethesda and Microsoft credit. They're still updating these games, Ben. They're still updating Doom. They're still updating Quake. They're still updating Quake 2. They're still releasing new packs. There's unprecedented. There's nothing like it.
So yeah, the whole point of this, and for anyone out there who's really interested, in the show notes for today's show over on the website, we're going to have a link to this as well, that they are releasing a whole new episode, which is, to your point, the whole updating it. 30 years later. It's almost like, an expansion, or a very tiny little expansion to the original Doom or something. It's keeping the memory of it alive, which, Nathan, we've talked about video game preservation and this Herculean task that people have taken it upon themselves to try to find old, dead, abandonware software and try to get old games to run on the original systems that they were, or at least get an emulation of it to run. Nathan, that's the part that I think really makes a lot of people mad, is when something that they remember fondly is just completely abandoned, destroyed, can't even get it back anymore. The people who made it are no longer in business. The parts are also spread out that you can't put it back together, which is why I love stories like this, where they have reverence for it, they have respect for it, and they're keeping it alive, at least in some form, and even in this case, continuing it, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's even more than that, because a lot of people talk about dead media. We talked about physical media, but your digital media doesn't work like you think it works. Just because something's digital doesn't mean it's always going to be available, especially on PCs. A lot of the old PC stuff from the 90s does not work on modern PCs. It uses different codecs, it uses different everything.
I think the Wayback Machine runs it, but there's a great DOS emulator. But if you didn't have that DOS emulator, your computer is, thousands of times more powerful. Doesn't mean that the software knows how to use any of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Doesn't mean anything. But I will say this, though. I want to give Microsoft credit because they haven't done, let's just say this, they haven't endeared themselves to a lot of people this year. Let's just say that. But no, so they own Bethesda.
They've gone through a massive restructuring where they laid off tens of thousands of people, and they've, kind of said some things. Microsoft has been floundering in the games sector.
I don't want to say, it's not one of those, hey, I told you so. But it's sort of like, if you can read the tea leaves, you knew exactly what the tea was going to taste like. You know what I mean? So I will say this. Machine Gun Games is the developer, and they're one of the best first-person shooter developers out there. They started off doing Doom and Quake mods, but they made a huge game a couple years ago. They made the new Indiana Jones game, the one that came out
the puzzle simulator, yeah.
Yeah, the puzzle. But some people loved it, right? But they do. But I think they worked on the Wolfenstein games as well. They're fantastic, and this is the third big one that Bethesda's released in the last couple of years. So for Doom's anniversary, they released a new campaign for the original Doom for free. They released a new campaign for the original Quake when it was like 25. They released a new campaign for Quake 2. Now they're releasing a 30th anniversary campaign for Quake 1. It just keeps going, and it's kind of fun to watch old game engines feel new again with modern game design. And so you have all this experience. And this is something we could talk about forever, where you have dead platforms like the NES, the Super Nintendo, the Sega Master System, whatever, and where they go back and they create new games on old technology using modern sensibilities. My favorite game of the year is sort of a pseudo fake one. It's a game called Mina the Hollower, and it's done by Yacht Club Games, the company that made Hollow Man. And it looks like a Game Boy Color game. It looks like one. It is not.
Hollow Man.
And Hollower, sorry. Hollow Man will get you to something very different. But but no, it looks like a Game Boy Color game. And I'm really happy that the game has been a huge success for them. It sold over 1 million copies. It's one of the best rated games of the year. I would imagine if you care about these sort of things, it'll probably be nominated for Game of the Year. I don't give a crap. But the game is a lot of fun. But it's a game that ostensibly probably could have been made 20, 30 years ago. But it couldn't have, because they don't have the knowledge of how these games are made. So it's in its own little bubble. And so I played a little of the Quake campaign last night before I went to bed. It's good. It's more Quake. It's more Quake, and for some people that's enough because you don't get it. There's nothing else like it. They don't make these type of games anymore.
Yeah, even if they just kind of point to it and go, hey, look, remember this thing, and we even released a little bit more on top of it. We're heading into the nostalgia kind of set, like not even heading into, we've been there for quite a while, ladies and gentlemen. If you want your gaming legacy from years ago, let's just say that, World of Warcraft Classic, that's what I'm kind of familiar with. That was released in, 5-6 years ago. And then just a couple of months ago, I want to say like 2 months ago or something like that, they released League of Legends Classic. League of Legends is one of the most popular games out there. And they released the version that they released like back in 2009. It is like a 20-year-old game. But yeah, a lot of traction on that. Nathan, it's like, yeah, it's nostalgia baiting, but at the same time, the game philosophy of today's games has become so different than games did back then that it just kind of works because it's different because it goes back to a different time. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say this though, the equivalent to this would be sort of like when Steven Spielberg made Schindler's List, which is exactly like Quake, by the way. No, when he made Schindler's List, they made it in black and white. Like people would make something or when Mel Brooks, forget Steven Spielberg. Let's talk about Mel Brooks. When Mel Brooks made Young Frankenstein in the 70s, he made it in black and white to homage the original Frankenstein movie. But he also used the same cameras. He used some of the same props because there was a certain aesthetic to the old monster movies that was missing in the 70s at the time. It was completely gone. And you still see some directors opting to make black and white, like this year on Amazon.
There was the werewolf or something, right?
The Spider-Man show.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of Spider-Man,
Spider-Man Noir or whatever it was. Yeah.
They released it in black and white, but they also released a color version. Wimps. They shouldn't have done that. but because there's an aesthetic that people find pleasing. It's not better, it's just different. And I think when you have something like Quake, which is built on old technology, it's all built on old aesthetics, but there's still room to have fun in there. And I think today with modern games, and if you're listening, if you're a publisher, please listen. If you want to know why the industry's in the poop right now, why so many people are losing their jobs, why so many companies are not selling, let me explain it to you in one sentence. Graphics don't really matter. They matter a little bit. I mean, everyone wants a good looking game. But if you say Unreal Engine will make my game look better, you should be unemployed, because it doesn't work like that.
I have heard people call it Unreal Engine 5 slop. It's just,
it
all has that same generic high fidelity look to it, and it doesn't stand out.
Like when people say, let's go gaming, I'm going to get 400 hertz. I'm going to get so many frames per second. No. How's your gameplay? Like if you have to talk about the aesthetics over the gameplay, you failed. You failed. And so Quake, you already know out of the box, it's not going to look photorealistic. It's going to look like Legos. But how's the gameplay? How's the fun? That's why things like Fortnite make so much money, and Minecraft and all this stuff. That's why the biggest selling games in the world look like toys. Because you know what you do with toys? You play with toys. You don't put the toy. Okay, unless you're a 40-year-old man with Funko Pops. In that case, we got another conversation. But if people play with toys, kids play with toys, we play with toys. Spider-Man, you're playing with toys, and people like playing because it's fun. No one says,
you just gave me a horrible flashback. My wife was looking for a chair or something like that on Facebook Marketplace, and we were just kind of flipping through our local Facebook Marketplace. Nathan, I saw the largest Funko Pop collection I have ever seen. He was selling it. I assume it was a he. He was selling it for $12,000 for the entire set.
He's
not looking to split it up.
He's hoping to sell it for $12,000.
He said confidently in the description that it was estimated through a particular website at $16,000. So he was giving you the bargain price of almost $12,000 to buy this thing from him. Oh my goodness, I cringed so hard.
That's like your parents saying you're really talented, or like everyone says you're so talented you should be in the movies. You should be a singer. It's like someone needs to sit you down and have an intervention and say no.
I never saw so many Funko Pops. It lined the wall. It was up to the wall, up to the ceiling, onto another wall. It was crazy.
I will tell you that you guys have a lot of thrift shops where you live. I mean, there are people who make YouTube videos about your city, about the thrift shops. You guys are thrift shop central. And for those who don't know, I'm not going to tell you where he lives, but Ben lives in a city that's really tech savvy and a lot of colleges. And the thrift shops over there are awesome. Like you can go and find treasure in his thrift shops. But where I live, we don't do too bad. And I remember I went to our local Savers a couple of months ago. I remember and you could always tell when a collection comes in. And by collection, I mean somebody died and their collection just got gifted. And it turns out it was a young guy. He was like a teenager or like early 20s. And his collection got donated because the parents didn't know what to do with it. There's a lot of video game stuff, a lot of toys. But the masterpiece of the collection was his Funko Pop collection because nobody wanted it. And like, nobody wants your Funko Pops. They are the Beanie Babies of today.
They are the Beanie Babies.
They are not an investment. They are separating you from money. Do not collect Funko Pops. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. Nobody cares when you die.
I was helping my mother clean out a bunch of stuff, and she found the old Beanie Baby collection from years ago, and she pulled one out and she Googled it, and she's like, look, Ben, this one's worth $150. Help me price all the rest of them. And I just pulled out, a random Google search or whatever, and it was like, unless you have one of these two out of millions of Beanie Babies in this condition, it's not going to be worth anything north of $5. And I had to break her spirit because she thought she just pulled out, $10,000-$15,000 out of the old Beanie Baby collection. But no.
Yeah. It's like they use language like it could be up to worth It could be. No, it's not. It will never, unless you have like the limited edition, like Adolf Hitler beat like Funko Pop. It's not worth anything.
It's
They're just not worth anything. And I'm sorry,
yeah.
they're just not.
It's a lot like cryptocurrency. It's just not worth it.
Well, as they used to say, it's okay. College was never an option. But
There you
but anyway, I don't know how we got off to this, but I will say Quake.
Quake, new episode.
It is not for everybody, nor should it be, and that's the best part. But it is for somebody. And I got to tell you, it was kind of fun itching that thing because you don't get this every day. They don't make games like this anymore. When they do it derisively. They say boomer shooter. Like the closest game to this today, I forget the developer, but it's the one who made the Warhammer, I think, bolt gun game, which is that pixelated fun game, right? But
you just reminded me that in the past month as well, Microsoft just came out with Halo 1 remaster. Honestly, the whole collection remastered, and they included new campaign missions for Halo 1, much in the same vein. Yeah.
Well, let me give you a good example before we head off. So the one you're talking about is Halo 1, the original game, 25 years ago, came out. It's been completely redone, not a remaster. It's remade in Unreal Engine 5. And I'm not going to comment on it. I know our friend Corey has been playing it. He likes it. But there have been some aesthetic changes that people don't really like. You know what I mean? They like it. For the most part, it looks beautiful. But when you look at it, you're still playing the old game, but it looks fresh. And I wonder, there are some people who talked about a disconnect because while it still looks modern, it still plays unmodern. And I don't know how that would feel for a lot of people. I don't think the game has sold very well.
People have gotten better at video games, and that's something that you really have to come to terms with some of these old, games that have been re-released that I've played, is that you're not going to get the same feeling because people are just generally, they understand how to use a computer nowadays. 25 years ago, they didn't know what the heck they were doing, and it was fun, because everyone was equally lost. Now everyone is almost pro level when it comes to their video gaming, and they expect the controls to feel away, just like you were saying. It's not going to play like it did 25 years ago. I will say, when it comes to the graphics, though, of the whole thing, you can just toggle them on and off. So, if you like the new modern stuff, great. If not, you don't even have to restart the game. You just hit a button, and it goes to old graphics.
I don't know if you can on Halo, though. I know you can on some games where they have like the new, which is kind of cool, by the way.
You can do that in the new Halo remaster that they just released. Yeah.
But for me, like I said, I get why people like the old stuff too. I do, right? I get it. Like if you've ever been to a nursing home in the last couple of years, you'll notice that a lot of nursing homes have televisions, and they're always like centered on like Nickelodeon or something, or AMC, and they're just constantly running repeats of like Gunsmoke and Bonanza 24/7.
It's like, match rerun, great.
Exactly. Like our generation, when we get that old, if we are blessed to live so long, it's just going to be like reruns of like Rick and Morty, like South Park, and the kids are like, "What's that?" It's just they don't know, and I don't know, man. I just say this, going back to the thing, Quake, party like it's 1996. Get a LAN. You don't even need a LAN party anymore. You know what I mean? It's not. What do they say? What's the saying? It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's someone's shot of whiskey. So if that's your Huckleberry, Nine Inch Nails awaits. The soundtrack is pretty good. The gameplay is exactly what you want. There you go. Have some fun. Doesn't come every day.
I believe the kids nowadays say, "Don't ew someone else's," or "Don't ick someone else's fun," or something like that, or whatever it is. Or yum, not fun. Yum. Don't ick someone else's yum. So there you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Well said. So, with that being said, let's do real quick. We're going to switch gears over to Grand Theft Auto 6. Highly anticipated. Everyone loves that this thing's finally going to come out after, checks clock, a decade. Yeah, it's. I'm sure this thing is going to annihilate all pre-sale sales, all that kind of thing, just because of the provenance of the series. And, I'm sure there's going to be lots of politics and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, Grand Theft Auto has a lane. I think they know to stay in it, and now it just comes down to marketing, if they can actually get this thing in front of people. Which brings us to the story that you linked us, and again, we're going to have a link in the show notes. Grand Theft Auto 6, how you market games. Years ago, let's say when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, you had E3, you had all these expos that you would go to. You would have, magazines that you would publish your stories in with, kind of teasers and tidbits. Sign of the Times, you linked an article saying that there's going to be an extended look on Netflix, which I can assure you is big money shelled out by Netflix to get an exclusive first look at a lot of gameplay, because that's one thing that Grand Theft Auto 6 has just really not had. They had the trailer, they had here and there screenshots, but extended gameplay, not so much. So, Nathan, what drew you to the story?
Netflix. Netflix is the new place, and frankly, this is interesting because Netflix has one of the biggest platforms online apart from YouTube, right? And the fact is, they're not like, when you look at video games, they do what's called Nintendo's Treehouse. They do live streaming. They do, this year, in the absence of E3 and anything else, companies put on their own show and they release it on their own website or YouTube. Not Netflix. This is different. Again, Netflix is an ecosystem. And it's not just movies and TV. They do games too. They had an interactive game that came out earlier this year about a flashlight. I didn't play it. Have you heard about it? Just type in Netflix flashlight game. You'll see it.
Yes, I think I have seen that. Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, if you really think about it, and I'm not too keen on it, but you hear about streaming things like GeForce. You hear about RIP Google Stadia. You hear about Microsoft cloud streaming.
The cloud, video game streaming, cloud streaming kind of deal. Yeah,
exactly. There's no reason Netflix could not do this. They have the biggest platform. They have the biggest streaming platform. They could easily stay into this. But their foray into gaming has been like iPhone apps and Android apps that you sideload.
I think they had like Bloons Tower Defense 6 that you could use through them. Like they would take successful IPs and essentially say, hey, you can get these mobile games that you could get elsewhere, but you get them for free with us. So,
and they kind of have a lot. They actually kind of have quite a good library, but it's kind of like Apple Arcade. They don't do anything with it, right? So the question is, what are they doing now? And the answer is, like, if you look at what Netflix has been doing, they've been doing all sorts of non-movie TV stuff. They've been doing boxing matches. They've been doing live events. They've been doing all kinds of stuff. So why not do this with the biggest game launch in history, right? And the answer is, duh. Like, it makes sense.
Yep.
It makes sense. So
I think a lot of people are going to tune into this. I know Netflix has been working on, well, first of all, they're just flooded with podcasts now, which I'm still trying to get Computer America on. I think it'd be fun to be on Netflix. Doesn't cost me anything, so we'll figure it out. But they had, I think, a UFC fight that they debuted on there. I think they had some football games that they put on there. Netflix is really trying to break out of, it's just things that you can stream that you don't really want to watch, but hey, it's there and available and free, so why not? Netflix is trying to break that box, and it's going to take events like this, like first extended look at Grand Theft Auto 6. I think it's a good match.
I do not care about Logan Paul. I don't care about any of that crap. But I do notice that when I look at Netflix and I see, they don't have Mr. Beast, right? That's Amazon, right? But it's like they're trying to recreate the fake world that only existed in like Rocky 4. Like, if you watch Rocky 3, Rocky 4, that world doesn't exist. Like, in that world, boxing is the most important thing in the world. It's the number one news item. Yeah. And everyone is dressed like a wrestler. And that's kind of, when I see Netflix stuff, that's exactly what it is. Like, they're treating the fake world like it's the real world. And I think it's kind of cool a little bit, because in the Rocky world, there's no nuclear war. There's no nothing, because Rocky beat the Russians, right? Mm-hmm. And so if Netflix wants to sort of assume that role, that they're going to be the new kingmakers. So if Grand Theft Auto 6, if the preview went on YouTube, it would just be another preview, because they got lots of those developer diaries on YouTube. They got tons of it. And if they wanted to do their own video like Nintendo does, again, other people do that. But Netflix is, again, probably the second or the third largest, not a social network. What would you call it? Just platform, video platform.
Yeah, just platform.
Yeah. And why don't they do this kind of stuff? Why don't they? Like, why don't they do more of this kind of stuff? It's such a no-brainer, right?
It's this idea that they're still trying to figure out the best way to do it, where they had I think it was David Letterman show and whatnot. It was, and I think John Mulaney as well had it as well. It's this idea of time sensitive live content that can be available after the fact, but to sit down and say, oh, this is live, it's breaking that binging thing, which I've seen other shows, Netflix did it and other streaming platforms are doing it too, of just, hey, a release schedule, a timed event, a shared time that people can come together, your audience can come together at a particular moment and enjoy something together and then talk about it the next day. And that has not been what Netflix was. They were the binging stream, they were the binging service. Now they're trying to shift to, oh, this is the anticipated event service as well.
Yeah, it's water cooler stuff. It's stuff, again, I go back to Rocky, right? Because that's what it was. Like when you were a kid back in the 80s and 90s, and I can attest I was there, you only had like 5 channels or cable, and you all talked about what you just saw. Like, did you see that Michael Jackson video? Yeah, of course I saw it. I'm alive. I saw it, right?
I'm hip.
And yeah, exactly. Like I know what it was, but no, it's because that's what it was, because that's what you saw, because that's what everyone was talking about, and they were able to corrugate that. And I think, and I blame Netflix for this, but like when you have binging stuff and they just drop 10 episodes of a show, unless you don't sleep and you watched all 10 episodes, then the kid who watched it doesn't know who to talk to the next day because I'll get around to it. And pretty soon you have that staggered. You don't longer have the water cooler stuff. You have slow drip. And that's why you have perfectly good shows that have come and gone because they don't have any cultural relevance, because you consume them like a buffet and then you move on to the next thing like a locust. And so I think we're getting away from the binge market model because I think they realized that for the most part, the binge model doesn't help long term. It helps short term, right?
It helped catch up society on, your Seinfelds, your Breaking Bads, your Friends, your whatever, things that were drip fed to us before and you kind of missed. So now you can have that resurgence. But new stuff that they want to introduce you to, binging doesn't seem to be as effective as, a staggered release.
No, it doesn't. And also it in marketing, they call it evergreen. When you have something that continues to sell, like
Judge Judy,
like Judge Judy, she's forever. When Trump's great grandson gets elected president 300 years from now, Judge Judy will be there at the inauguration, fossilized. But with evergreen stuff, again, going back to Spider-Man for a second, Spider-Man made a lot of money. Like, I don't know if people know this. It broke almost every box office record in a couple days. That's insane. And it did that with a different type of marketing. And I think I'm almost wondering what's going to happen with Grand Theft Auto, because this is really the tempest in the teapot. This is why Sony chose to make their announcement about going away from physical media in light of Grand Theft Auto. Like, this game they're expecting this game to be so pervasive, to be so successful, you could literally almost get away with murder promoting this game. But because they know people will get this. This is not like, I'll wait for it. No, you're going to get this game. And I'm going to sit here and say right now, I don't know how well it's going to do. Everyone says it's going to do great, but nobody knows. Nobody really knows.
It's a lot like some of the stock stuff and business stuff where let's say Microsoft or Apple or one of these giga $4 or $5 trillion companies, they can all have their earnings report and they can say, we made enough money to drown every child in pennies if we wanted to. Like, they could have a blowout session, but unless it's a blowout upon a blowout, blows everyone's mind, a simple blowout no longer suffices. It needs to be a completely revolutionary blowout to actually move the stock, and I feel like that's where Grand Theft Auto's at is, it could exceed expectations. Perfect. But if it doesn't really exceed expectations, it might still be considered a failure.
Well, I'll say this though. Again, I go back to it. We had a Star Wars movie this year, and not only did it bomb, it had absolutely no relevance in the culture, right? That's not a surprise because, again, we saw what happened with this franchise. That's not the case with Grand Theft Auto. That's not the case. The last Grand Theft Auto game was 13 years ago, right? 13 years ago. That is a whole generation of kids who have never seen a new Grand Theft Auto game. That's a long time.
So to put a little bit more spin on that as well, though, Grand Theft Auto 5 Online, GTA Online, has been and continues to be, for those who don't know, a very successful, if not, I think like the most successful online service game that there is. So 13 years ago for the original campaign and that kind of stuff. But I will say, Nathan, I don't think I've ever seen a single player campaign driven story kind of game transform itself into an online service game as successfully as GTA 5. It's crazy.
That's where all the money makes. That's where all the money's made. And we saw Rockstar could not even replicate that with Red Dead Redemption. There was attempts to try to create a similar vibe and a similar ecosystem. Couldn't do it. Like, it could be lightning in the bottle, could be tempest in a tea. I have a lot of metaphors here that don't apply. but the fact of the matter is, I'll just leave you with sage advice. Okay, sage advice. Have you ever heard of William Goldman, the screenwriter?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll say this. Maybe the name doesn't ring a bell, but you've seen his movies. I'll just name one. The Princess Bride. I'll name two.
Of course.
Misery. Tons of stuff. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, right? All kinds of stuff. He wrote the definitive text on what it's like to be a Hollywood screenwriter. Like, the most famous. If you're writing screenplays, if you want to be in Hollywood, you will know who William Goldman is, right? Goldman. But he has a phrase that everyone quotes, and I'll quote it here. No one knows anything. Like, if someone tells you they know what's going to happen, they don't. And it's sage advice because it's an evergreen again. No one knows. Like, again, no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows if a $1 million Obsession movie is going to make $500 million. No one knows if the Terminator movie is going to bomb. No one knows if Star Trek's going to still survive. No one knows about Doom.
You said that you follow box office, performances and stuff like that. And, I'm always pretty impressed that, they're like, oh, this movie based on early reviews and audience engagement and testimony and stuff like that, they can expect, and I saw this a lot with Supergirl, it's like, oh, we're expecting $26 million opening weekend. And then it made, honestly, it made like 32 million or something like that.
It's pretty close.
They're pretty close, but also, like you said, they don't know. It could just go viral for no reason.
Yep. It's, for the most part, they have it down to a science. Like, for the most part, they can track two things. They can track opening, what's called pre-sales, but they can't really track long-term. Like, if something becomes a phenomenon, like, for example, and sometimes they're so baffled they don't try. Like Avatar movies, people say, oh, they have no cultural relevance. They come, they all make $1 billion+ and then they leave. That's never happened before. Like, that's never. Let me put it this way. The last Avatar movie, the ones that people thought was a disappointment, has made way more money than Spider-Man or The Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
Like, the third Avatar movie has made more money than Nolan's biggest movie of all time. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? But I don't know. That's the fun part of all this stuff. The fun part is just not knowing.
If everyone knew beforehand, hey, we wouldn't have much to talk about. So there you go. Let's see. So some of these other stories, I think we're going to gloss over them, just throw them out there real quick. Yeah. Google Assistant is going away, for those who don't know. So on your phone, I should say, Google Assistant is being replaced by Google Gemini. So September 4th, for those who have a Google phone or an Android phone, Google Assistant will no longer be a thing. So... which, hey, let's face it, there's a paid tier version of Gemini. There's not a paid version of Google Assistant.
Hold on, stop the phones. Google's killing a product?
I know.
What?
It's shocking. What? Google developed the replacement for the product and kept the two going simultaneously instead of iterating? No way. That's insane. But yeah, so Google Gemini coming to phones, and they're just going away with Assistant. So if you rely on Assistant, good luck with that. Let's see. The other one that we're not really going to talk about, but you can comment if you like, Nathan. OpenAI. They do. I forgot their AI. Anyways, OpenAI, and they are releasing a physical hardware version of a AI assistant. Think like I don't want to say all the terms, but Amazon has one, Microsoft has one, Google has one. And now OpenAI wants their own hardware smart speaker solution. So that was, as you pointed out before the show, designed by Johnny Ive. So, yeah. I mean, did you have anything to say about that one, or just it's a thing?
Years ago, you and I and our friend Herman talked about this, about how a lot of AI is just basically rebranding, just voice
Functions?
assistants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this is. This is basically, there's been so many versions of AI, this, AI, that. Again, do me a favor, wake me up when something's better than your phone. Like, the idea that people are going to go out and buy, well, some will, because some don't know, but you're going to put a little AI spy bot in your house, and you're going to seed your house with these AI bots. And what's going to be the benefit for people? And the answer is, when you have these third-party companies that are competing against Amazon, you're basically saying, trust us, and but you're not going to have access to any of the Amazon ecosystem that you already pay for. I don't know the value proposition for anybody at that point. You know what I mean?
I also question how much, like, on a computer, I get it. On a phone, I kind of get it. But I don't know how useful something like ChatGPT would be on a smart assistant that is physically in the room with you on a speaker. Like, there's not a lot of productivity to be extracted from that. So good luck with that. It's going to be about $400. So if that's up your alley, who knows? Never underestimate tech bros.
Is that the one with Johnny Ives? I know we were talking about that. Though. Is that him? Yeah. So I don't know.
So you know it's going to look like a soulless hunk of roundness. So yeah, we'll see what it actually looks like here in a little bit.
That's funny.
Johnny Ive, he has a style. I think everyone knows that by now. Okay, so last one I'm going to gloss over is New Orleans is going to, and I just bring this up because, we were talking about this morning, and it's New Orleans will use AI to answer 911 calls instead of a human. And the only thing I'm going to say about all this is, before everyone gets up into a panic, which I know that, people in my house did, they're using it in situations where you have a mass event, be it a big accident on the highway, heaven forbid, a mass shooting or something like that, a big event, and you have hundreds or thousands of people all calling emergency services at once to report this incident. Then they would turn the system on and it would reroute people saying, are you calling about this incident? And then it would direct you to either the most current information that the police have, or it would send you to a human to then give more information. So it's not like, oh, 911, help, my baby's been eaten by a dingo. No, it's going to be in very specific situations. So just want to get out ahead of that story, because that one seems like it's been making the rounds today and scaring people.
Well, people have been trained to associate AI with Terminator. Mm-hmm. And I think for good reasons, for some reason. But the idea is that it can't be augmenting an existing service is also poo-poo. If the idea was that they're going to replace operators, it's become a joke in bigger metropolitan cities that have phone congestion, because apparently people don't realize your cell phones can be congested. Like, lines can be busy. Mm-hmm. You are put on if you call, like, in certain parts of New York or like Chicago, you get put on hold when you call the police. Yeah. Please hold. Well, what if you've been stabbed? Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait. And I think part of it is not only because of Terminator. It's because, and I say this with kindness, let me get on my box, is that when you call a normal company in normal business hours, you get treated to the worst AI bots you have ever heard. And they are designed by space aliens who have no idea how humans speak. And have you heard the way some of these voice automated AVRs talk?
It's weird that these spam callers have figured it out, but the people that actually have legitimate services can't figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a spam call will, like, you know what? I am going to invest my money with you, stranger from India. No, but if you call a service like, I'll put you on blast, GoDaddy, for example, a company I work with a lot, someone should go to jail for your IVR. You call, it's like we're going to help you make a statement on the web. Awesome. Okay, go to hell. Don't talk to me like that. Or, like, back in the past, speaking of Xbox and gaming, Xbox used to have Gamer Guy if you've ever had to call Microsoft for any reason.
Yeah.
And by the way, this continues to this day. When I had my account hacked and I had to go through Microsoft's account recovery, they merged it with Xbox. I don't understand why. I don't want to get into it. But they had this Gamer Guy, right? And this was like 10 years ago. And you call Microsoft and it's like, hey, how's Xbox? Yeah, you got to have your gamer tag. It's like, go to hell. You know, it's like, don't do this. And no one if you went to a store and someone talked to you like that, you'd walk out. You'd walk out. That's not a human. It's like, you're trying to lure me into your trap to eat me. That's not natural. And can you imagine calling the police? Like, thanks for calling the San Diego Police Department. We got you. What's your problem? Have you been stabbed? It's just, come on. Like,
I think I called Xbox once back in the day, and my gamer tag was like Time Bomb Toaster, and I think they called me that. So
it's but no, you get it. I get why people would be apprehensive, and I share their apprehension. And we live in a world where they're putting flock cameras everywhere when AI is being infiltrated. And everybody absolutely knows is that AI is not ready for this. It's not ready. Maybe it will be.
It is not ready for prime time, which is why I wanted to get out ahead of it, was that the knee-jerk reaction, just like you're saying, just like everyone assumes, is exactly that, and they are justified. I've seen enough videos and demonstrations of AI saying, 2 + 2 is 5, and then arguing with you when you try to correct it. It is not ready for this. But at the same time, there is a use case, the one that I outlined at the beginning of this, that I think everyone can get behind. That is a legitimate use of the service. So... Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be there, but it's not there yet, and it may never be there because the people doing it may not understand it.
Yep. So, yep, there's that one. We'll have links to all these stories, all the articles that we just talked about in the show notes. And Nathan, before we go though, we have some Calcopia goodies, and these are different things. Which, by the way, tons of different articles just in the past week alone. I'm already seeing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 articles. You have podcasts and stuff. Let's talk about some of what people will find there in specifics. Let's talk about gaming historian Kurt Kalata. So you have this podcast and The State of Gaming, which is a podcast that you do with a couple of your writers over there as well. So let's talk about some of the recent podcasts. What did you have fun with?
Well, I will say this though. It seems gaming centric, but no, there's going to be a couple movie related things coming up, maybe some book stuff coming up. No spoilers, but no, we had some fun. We retooled a little bit of the podcast, so we had a little bit of a gap. I'm really proud of the gaming historian one with Kurt Kalata. Kurt's a nice guy. He founded something called Hardcore Gaming Historian. Wow, almost 20 years ago. But he works with the company called Bitmap Books, and they released a very comprehensive illustrated encyclopedia about I don't want to say my favorite, but one of my favorite consoles to talk about, which is the PC Engine. And I won't get into the woods about what that is, but if you've ever heard of the TurboGrafx 16, the PC Engine is the Japanese version of that. That was wildly successful in Japan and not successful at all anywhere else. If you want to know about a time capsule of one of the most beloved gaming consoles of all time that you may not have heard about or may wonder what all the kerfuffle is, then please listen, because we go through it quite a bit. We talk about why the console matters, why it was really important, and how bad marketing kind of killed it. And people who didn't know how to market a console. And it's a lot of fun. And again, it's one of my very favorite things. As far as tech goes, the biggest claim to fame for the PC Engine that you would be interested in, it was the first consumer device to have a CD-ROM.
Huge.
Ever. Yeah, it's pretty big. And it started the whole revolution. I don't know what else to say.
Yep, and then the State of Gaming as well for July.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a little late, but we talk about that was Corey. He of course, because he buys everything, he has a Steam machine, and we go through it and we figure it out. And if you want to know if it's worthwhile, if you want to know if you should buy one, I don't think there'll be any surprises. You know how I feel about it, and I think most people feel the same. But like the PC Engine, it's an oddity that's fun to talk about. I'll be honest with you, Ben. The PlayStation 5, the Switch 2, not a lot of fun to talk about. They're too popular, right? There's no surprises with the Switch 2 or the PlayStation 5. But the Steam machine, a lot of fun to talk about. PC Engine, a lot of fun to talk about because they're niche. And you don't really find niche stuff today, right? Niche is fun.
If you can't sell 1 million units, then why bother making it at all, right?
Well, I'll say this. The history of technology, the history of games, history of movies, everything, like I said before, it's a giant graveyard of good ideas, bad execution, right? And that's always disappointing to someone who's a futurist like myself that says, wow, this is going to be so cool. I remember years ago when Apple started getting into the gaming sphere with Apple TV, I was like, wow, Apple's into it. Wow, this is going to change everything. Nope. Because Apple doesn't know how to do games at all. They're sitting on a platform, they're sitting on a service, they're sitting on games, but there's just nobody at Apple, which is crazy to me. There's nobody at the world's biggest company that knows how to do it. Call me. Okay, call me. I will do it. I will do it for free. But and so Apple TV, kind of fun to talk about because it's niche. And so that's what I like to talk about most of all. I don't like talking about mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone else is doing it.
No, trust me, preparing for the show, I'm sure you do it too, kind of go out to some of the big reporters and some of the big sites. And once you visit one, you kind of pick your favorite that you have the most objective, the most, the style of reporting that you like. And then you go to the next site that is your second favorite, and then the third and the fourth. By the time that you're after like 2, you're like, okay, this article, seen. And it's not that more than one outlet can't report on the same story. Not that at all. It's just there's only those same 3 stories. And, your site is a great example of, you have, Spider-Man Brand New Day review up there, but also if you scroll down, you're going to see reviews that I have not seen anywhere else. You're going to see articles you're not going to see anywhere else. These larger sites that are, let's be honest, probably all owned by the same person, they only report what, the same top 5 stories. There's more to like out there to talk about.
And there's nothing wrong with that too. I mean, they're obviously very successful, more successful.
They look successful.
Than us.
I will admit they look successful.
Yeah, they give the impression, but they're all reading the same tea leaves too. It's, they're all reading the same reports. They're all getting the same buzzword things. Hey, let's talk. Like, I love podcasts, right? I love listening to movie podcasts about bad movies, about old movies. And there's no coincidence that if I listen to 5 different podcasts that talk about old movies, and suddenly they're all talking about Rad, or they're all talking about Thrashing, or they're all talking about the same movie, it's because you realize that the people making these podcasts are not doing it out of the love of the game anymore. They're doing it for the exact same reason that every other studio does it. They're doing it to make money.
They're doing it for the love of HelloFresh, now sponsoring.
By the way, can I just make a comment? If you listen to podcasts a lot, you'll know that a lot of podcasts have kind of the same 5 advertisers, and a lot of them is like Better Health, HelloFresh. Have you ever noticed? You
can now listen to Computer America on Audible. Yes, Audible. But I got you.
Or they're selling the same bed sheets or the same bed, or but you ever notice sometimes you can tell like when they have the podcaster record their own advertising clip, and suddenly it's a completely different they sound like a different person. Like, when I was growing up, I liked HelloFresh, and this is great. I love their bean souffle. It's like, if that was my advertisement, I'd pull it because you make my product sound terrible.
It's because the audience is no longer your regular audience. The audience is now the marketing campaign director that is going to listen to that recording to make sure you hit all of your talking points. I've been there. Exactly. It sucks, and it's disingenuous, and it's not my favorite way to do it either.
It is, and I love podcasts, and I love the fact, but I also hate the fact that there's been so much infiltration from, like you said, Amazon, Netflix, and everything, and they're not really podcasts anymore. They're basically mini shows, and I know even big, you could have companies like CNN or NPR or I forget, Spotify's been big on this, when you basically have celebrities with a microphone and they come in and they have all this backing and they overwhelm the original podcasters. And people have been doing it for a long time that just have a Logitech microphone and a laptop. And it's just
so before we go, and we're gonna wrap up here.
Yeah.
Like just pull up Apple Podcasts. Still one of the biggest ecosystems out there for podcasts. Very first one, ESPN. Second one, Nice Gentleman. I'm guessing from some other publisher. The Daily, which is New York Times. You have Joe Rogan Experience, of course. You have this one from Hoda Kotb, which I think she's in CBS or something like that. Anyways, CBS and Apple and ESPN, these are now your competitors when you do a show like we do. Well, it's rough.
But they're not. But what happens is they're basically just recycled content from other shows.
Yes.
A lot of time. Or they'll rebroadcast. And God bless, I like BBC and I like PBS or NPR to a certain extent, but they're just recycling professionally made funded shows, and they're now competing for the same advertising dollars that you're competing for. And they're so blasted, and they don't have organic audiences. They're basically astroturf. And that's fine too. I'm not complaining, but it does make it difficult when we didn't even talk about it. But I think who made that big deal lately with TikTokers? Disney is now allowing. You saw this is now allowing TikTokers, which by the way, no. Don't put TikTok on
turning
Disney.
short form content into more.
But they now
shows,
they're going to have access to the Disney Vault. But if I did that, right, I would be demonetized. My video would be flagged.
Mickey would find your house and burn it down to the ground. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's but it's just like that's what's happening now. So they're going to find other ways to sort of infiltrate, and pretty soon podcasting and a lot of these networks will be just as boring and just as predictable and just another product serving that the way cable TV became and the way streaming has become.
Which is why the lovely folks over at Computer America will be our own brand of boring, and it will be wonderful. And we appreciate everyone out there for, of course, listening to that. Nathan, the music means that we're going to wrap up here. I think that's as good a place as any to wrap up. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us your thoughts, your wisdom, your stories, and all of today's news. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I can't think of a better way to send everyone off into a new, new month, a new weekend, a new week than on a Friday, taking it out with Nathan Evans. Calcopia.com. If you want to find out more about that, you can head straight there or come out to computeramerica.com and we'll have a link in the show notes. Nathan, thank you for your time. As always, thank you for your insights, and thank you for your voice. You sound great.
Thank you.
And until next time, everyone out there, have a great time. See you next time. Go see a movie. There's actually some great ones out there. Everyone, catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.